5 Disturbing True Stories of Neighbors with Dark Secrets. Part 1. The Man in Apartment 2B. Have you ever passed by a neighbor every day, exchanged polite nods, and never thought twice about who they really are? We live beside strangers, separated by mere walls, but what hides behind those doors could haunt you forever. This is the story of the man in Apartment 2B, and why no one ever saw him leave. When I first moved into the Roseview apartments, I was just another broke college grad desperate for affordable rent. The building was old but charming, with creaky floors and chip paint that locals called historic. Apartment 2C was mine. Right beside me was 2B, its door always closed, blinds always drawn. The name on the mailbox just said Mr. R. Elroy. I never saw him. For weeks, I assumed the apartment was empty, until one night, I heard the tapping. It was soft at first, just a faint sound against the shared wall, like fingers brushing or tapping rhythmically. I turned off my music and listened. Tap, 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 tap. I knocked back out of curiosity, and the sound stopped. No reply, no further tapping, just silence. I laughed it off, figured it was the pipes. But the next night, it returned, louder. This time it wasn't random. It was intentional. A pattern. Like Morse code, almost. I knocked again, 3 times. The tap stopped again, but when I put my ear to the wall, I swear I heard breathing. The apartment manager, Gloria, was friendly but evasive when I asked. Mr. Elroy? Oh, he's lived here longer than anyone. Quiet man. Keeps to himself. Don't bother him, and he won't bother you. But I never see him. Is he okay? She hesitated. He pays on time. That's all that matters, right? The hallway lights outside 2B flickered every time I walked past. I thought it was just faulty wiring, until I noticed something strange. Every single morning, the doormat was wet, damp, like someone had just hosed it down. But it never rained, and I never heard the water running. I started to feel like I was being watched, from behind that peephole, or through the narrow slit of blinds in his living room. One day, I dropped my keys, and as I bent down, I saw a movement behind his window. A face? No, just a blur. But it was enough to make my stomach churn. Curiosity got the better of me. Late one night, I pressed my ear to the wall again. Tap, 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 tap. It was back. I hit record on my phone, hoping to catch the sound and analyze it. Maybe it was Morse code. But as I recorded, something happened. The tapping shifted and started sounding like scratching, then dragging, like fingernails raking across drywall. I turned up the volume. Through the thin plaster, I heard whispers. At first, just a faint hum. Then, let me out. He sees you too. Stop listening. I recoiled from the wall in terror. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what could be on the other side. Was Mr. Elroy alive? Mentally unwell? Or was someone else in there? I decided to knock on his door the next morning. No answer. So I left a note. Hi, Mr. Elroy. Hope you're well. I'm your neighbor in 2C. Let me know if you ever need anything. I slid it under his door. An hour later, the note came back, shoved from the inside, folded neatly, with one word written in shaky pencil. Run. That was the last straw. I went to Gloria again. I demanded answers. She looked pale when I showed her the note. He warned you. I nodded. She exhaled deeply and motioned for me to follow her into the office. From a drawer, she pulled out an old tenant file, thick and yellowed. Inside were incident reports going back 20 years. Complaints about noises, strange smells, pets going missing. But the name on the file wasn't Mr. R. Elroy. It was Unit 2B vacant. He died in 2001, she said. No one has lived in there since. I just kept collecting the rent from the management company. I didn't ask questions. I stared at her, heart pounding. But the mail, the sounds of water? She shook her head. I never put mail in that box. Never cleaned the mat. I swear to you, no one has the keys to 2B. That night, I moved out. I didn't even wait for morning. I stuffed my essentials into 2 duffel bags and ran. But before I left, I glanced down the hall one last time. The door to 2B was open just a crack, and inside the darkness, I saw my folded note still on the floor. The woman with the backyard full of dolls. 2 more notes. We all know that identical. One house. Same one neighbors avoid. Same word. The one kids whisper about. For me, it was a cottage 3 doors down, home to an old woman named Agnes who hung dolls from her trees. But the day one of them looked exactly like me was the day everything changed. I moved into the small suburban neighborhood of Hollow Pines after a bitter divorce. The quiet cul-de-sac and cheap rent made it feel like a safe haven. My new neighbors were friendly enough, except for one, Agnes Holloway, the reclusive woman in the gray cottage with the dead garden. Her yard was unsettling. No flowers, no grass, just dirt, cracked soil, and dozens of dolls tied to tree branches with fraying rope and fishing line. Their glassy eyes stared in every direction. Porcelain faces faded from sun and weather. Some were missing limbs. Others had their mouths stitched shut with black thread. I asked my next-door neighbor, Jamie, about her. Oh, Agnes? She's weird. Lives alone. Never speaks. Been here forever. Just ignore her, and she'll ignore you. I tried. I really did. Until I saw the doll. It was a Saturday morning. I was sipping coffee by my window when I noticed a new doll in Agnes's tree. One I hadn't seen before. This one had shoulder-length brown hair, wore jeans and a hoodie, and had a small beauty mark on its cheek. Just like me. I stared, frozen. My heart thumped. It couldn't be, right? Coincidence? But when I went outside and looked closer to the chain-link fence, I saw it. The doll wore my exact hoodie, the faded maroon one with the stitched tear on the sleeve. Even the tiny sneakers it wore matched mine. And its eyes weren't glass. They were photographs, small printed cutouts of my eyes pasted onto the face. I backed away and called the police. When they arrived, Agnes greeted them with a vacant smile. She denied everything, claimed the doll was old. Looks like you, dear? Must be your imagination, she said, her voice brittle like dried leaves. The officer shrugged. Nothing illegal about creepy dolls in your yard. But when I looked back, that doll was gone, replaced by another. One with long hair and blue eyes, exactly like Jamie next door. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept my lights off, peeked through the blinds. At 2:17 a.m., I saw her. Agnes was in her yard, barefoot, nightgown dragging in the dirt. She was talking to the dolls. Whispers. Coos. And then she hung another one, its head lolled to the side. Its hair was blonde. The next day, Jamie didn't answer her door. I confronted Agnes. Where's Jamie? Agnes looked confused, then smiled. Oh, she moved. Said goodbye last night. That's funny, I said. She didn't say goodbye to me. Agnes's smile faltered for just a second. Not everyone says goodbye, dear. I called Jamie's sister. She hadn't heard from her. That night, I broke my own rules. I climbed the fence into Agnes's yard. The dolls swayed above me, creaking in the breeze. Their shadows looked like bodies. I searched beneath them, near the rotting garden shed. That's when I noticed the soil freshly dug. A mound, not even covered well. My phone flashlight flickered, but before I could move, a hand clamped on my shoulder. Agnes, you shouldn't be here, she hissed. Her eyes were different now, wild, feral. I ran, didn't look back. Police returned the next day. They found nothing. No Jamie, no mound, no evidence. But Agnes, she stood in her yard, smiling again, and in the tree closest to her porch hung a new doll. This one wore my clothes, had my smile, and this time its eyes weren't photos. They were real. Part 3, The Attic Watcher. Some streets look peaceful on the outside. Fresh paint, trimmed hedges, kids riding bikes. But sometimes behind one of those windows, something is watching, always watching. And if you look back, it might smile. My wife and I moved to a quiet neighborhood in Vermont last fall, trying to escape the noise of the city. The house next door had been vacant for years, according to the realtor, abandoned after the elderly man who lived there passed away. Or so we thought. On the first night, as I stood on our porch sipping tea, I saw a movement in the attic window of that house. Just a flicker, a curtain pulling back. I told myself it was the wind, but over the next few weeks, I kept noticing it. That same window, that same slow movement. Sometimes at night, sometimes during the day. A shape, a figure, standing just out of sight, watching. I asked around. The neighbors all said the same thing. No one's lived there in years. Place is falling apart. But one evening, as I took the trash out, I looked up and saw him. A gaunt man, pale as chalk, just standing there behind the glass, watching. His mouth was open in a wide, unnatural grin. I blinked. He was gone. I convinced my wife something was off. She didn't believe me fully, but she agreed to drive by the house with me the next day. We walked around the property. Weeds had overtaken the lawn. The mailbox was rusted shut, but something felt wrong. When we got to the side of the house, we saw a ladder, old, rotted, leading up to the attic window. It wasn't there before. Inside the attic window was a handprint, fresh. We called the police. They searched the house. Empty, cobwebs, dust, no signs of recent habitation, except one thing. In the attic, beneath the window, was a pile of Polaroid photos. Dozens of them, all taken from that attic window. All pointed toward our house. Some were zoomed in, showing us on the porch, eating dinner, sleeping in the living room, and some were taken from even closer. Inside our home, we installed cameras, motion lights, deadbolts. I couldn't sleep, kept checking the footage. At 2:44 a.m., the backyard light flicked on. The camera glitched. Static for 5 seconds. Then a still image. A close-up of my face. Asleep. Someone had taken the footage and replaced it with that. I rushed to check the attic again the next morning. The window was shattered. The ladder was gone. But in the grass below was a new Polaroid. Me, from behind. Looking up. We moved. But before we left, I went back to the house one last time. I walked up to the attic. Empty, except for a mirror. And written across it in red letters. You watched me. Now I watch you. Part 4. The Midnight Basement. Most people ignore strange noises in the night, blaming the wind, the pipes, the creaking of an old house. But what if the sound is a human scream, muffled and coming from next door? That's what happened to me. I lived in a townhouse complex. Walls thin enough that I could hear when my neighbor, Mr. Layton, sneezed or microwaved popcorn. He was in his 60s, quiet, kept to himself, retired schoolteacher. The kind you waved but never really know. One night, just past midnight, I woke up to a noise. It was faint, almost like a whimper, coming from the shared basement wall. I pressed my ear against the drywall. That's when I heard it again. A scream. Low. Terrified. Human. I knocked on Mr. Layton's door the next morning. He answered wearing gloves, even though it was warm out. Everything okay? I asked casually. Heard something weird last night. He stared at me for a beat too long, then smiled. Old pipes. This building moans when it settles. His voice was too calm, too rehearsed. That night, the scream came again. And then again, every night after, always between 12:15 and 12:30 a.m. I recorded it, played it back. The scream wasn't the same each time. It had words. I cranked the volume. I swear I heard, "Help, please help me." I called the police. They did a wellness check. Mr. Layton let them in. 15 minutes later, they left. Nothing unusual, they told me. Seems like a clean basement. He even offered us tea. But something felt wrong. I went around the back of the unit that night, crouching by his basement window, and I saw it. A chain, bolted to the wall, and a pale hand reaching toward the window. Then the blind snapped shut. I broke in the next night. I couldn't ignore it anymore. His back door was locked, but the basement window wasn't. I slid through. It smelled like bleach and rust. The basement was tidy, too tidy. But behind a shelf unit was a door with a bolt lock. And behind that, a girl, pale, thin, gagged, shackled to a pipe. She stared at me, eyes wide with terror and relief. Before I could move, I heard a creak upstairs. Mr. Layton was home. I freed her fast as I could, carrying her out the window. We ran to my car, called the cops. They arrived fast this time. Found Mr. Layton standing in the basement with a syringe in his hand. The girl had been missing for 3 months. She was 17, from another town, abducted on her walk home from school. Mr. Layton was arrested, but I'll never forget the sound of her voice when I found her. And I'll never ignore another midnight scream, because sometimes the monster isn't under your bed. It's living next door. Part 5, House of Whispers. In every neighborhood, there's that one house, the one with blinds always drawn, where packages sit untouched, where no one ever answers the door. For us, that was the Martins. They moved in 2 years ago, husband, wife, and a little boy. At first, everything seemed normal. They waved, smiled. The kid played in the yard. But one day, they just disappeared. No more car in the driveway. No lights at night. No movement behind the curtains. At first, we figured they went on vacation. But a month passed. Then 2. Strangely, the grass never grew. The mailbox stayed empty. But at night, only at night, I'd see a light flicker in the attic window. Faint, like a candle, and sometimes shadows moving in front of it. But by morning, nothing. Silence. Stillness. I tried knocking once. No answer. But I heard something inside. Not footsteps. Not voices. Whispering. Others in the neighborhood started talking. One woman said she saw the boy in her backyard, staring at her just before dawn. Another swore she heard someone crying from inside the Martin home. Finally, I called a non-emergency police line. They sent an officer to check it out. He knocked, waited, then walked around back. When he didn't come back to his car after 10 minutes, another patrol unit was called in. Police entered with a warrant 2 days later. What they found was wrong. The house was filled with food, toys, dishes, like the family never left. The master bedroom had been turned into some kind of ritual space, walls covered in strange symbols. But the family was gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just one thing that made every officer's blood run cold. In the attic, they found a small chalk circle. Inside it were 3 child-sized handprints and a line of ash. Police obtained the last security footage from the doorbell cam across the street. At 3:33 a.m., the night before the report, the footage shows the Martins walking out their front door. But they weren't alone. A 4th figure, tall and skeletal, walked behind them, barefoot, grinning. The footage flickered, and then the family just faded into the night. No car, no footsteps, no return. To this day, the house remains empty. But sometimes, late at night, I still see that attic light flicker. And once, I swear I heard whisper in my own basement. Whatever happened to the Martins didn't stay in their home.